For the big headline economically for the news cycle today, some analysts say new data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis proves the U.S. economy is shrinking. The Bureau released its second quarter report today, showing the gross domestic product, the GDP, fell nearly an entire percentage point. That's a second straight quarter with falling numbers. The GDP report comes a day after the Fed increased rates for interest, another 3/4 of a percentage point. It's not an official metric, but economists say a rule of thumb is that 2 straight quarters of shrinking inflation or shrinking economy could signal a recession. So with 6 months of shrinking economy, fears of recession are on the minds of many. That's why Fox 4 investigative journalist Ryan Kruger spoke with an expert in this field today, and Ryan, mixed reports about whether or not we are truly in a recession.
Yeah, that's right. For instance, President Biden said today we are not in a recession. That's despite the news of the shrinking economy. Meanwhile, that definition you mentioned that's long been accepted, that says we may be.
The first half of 2022 has seen the U.S. economy slow down. Just 2 years after the last recession, which started at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, there are fears the country is heading for a new one. But FGCU economics professor Dr. Victor Klar says the answer isn't so simple.
We're producing less stuff, we're selling less stuff, and people are earning less. At the same time, the jobs numbers are relatively strong.
With 2 quarters of a falling GDP, the U.S. has met a common but unofficial definition of a recession. The official answer will come from the National Bureau of Economic Research. But whether or not we are officially in a recession may mean little to families struggling with record-breaking inflation.
For a lot of people, if they feel like their livelihood is not as secure as it was a year or two ago, then for them it feels like a recession.
President Biden said on Thursday that the U.S. is not in a recession despite the bad economic news. The Federal Reserve also announced plans for yet another interest rate hike this week to combat inflation. But Klar says that may be too little, too late.
The Fed probably waited too long to take inflation really seriously. And when they finally did take it seriously, they probably raised interest rates too slowly and not enough to really step on the brakes and stop this overheating economy where prices are concerned.
So, million-dollar question tonight, of course. When will officials give a definitive answer as to whether or not we are in a recession? Well, the NBRE, they don't set meetings, so it could be weeks, possibly even months, before we have a definitive answer. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.